Imagine a world where every time a girl dares to dream, the world whispers that she cannot hear it. Is the story of women who refuse to give up even when life pushed them down, even when the world told them to stay quiet, even when no one believed in them. These are not just stories, these are echoes of courage reverberating through time. You will feel each heartbeat, each tear, each triumph as we walk through their lives and see what it truly means not to give up. There was a girl who dreamed of flying high among the stars, but instead she was born into a world that saw her skin and not her potential. She grew up in a small town where limits were placed on her because she was a girl and because she was different. But from her earliest days, she counted the stars and whispered answers to equations others said were too difficult. And every morning she walked to school with a notebook held close to her chest, and inside that notebook were dreams far bigger than the dirt roads she walked on. She did not know it yet, but she was carving a path that one day would help a nation reach for the moon. Across a different world on the other side of life, there was another woman who grew up listening to the sound of her own voice before she even knew the power it held. She spoke up for those who could not speak for themselves. She walked through fire in her heart and carried the weight of words that healed. She carried the weight of hope that refused to be silenced. They told her to be quiet. They told her that she was too emotional, too ambitious, too loud. But she stood tall. She learned to use her pain like wind beneath her wings, so that every time she spoke, the world had no choice but to hear. In a quiet city, a woman lived who loved stories more than anything. She read at night by the dim light of a lamp while the world around her slept. She wrote stories about courage and magic and places no one had ever been. But when she tried to share those stories, publishers told her they were not good enough. They said the world would never care about her words. They rejected her again and again. But still she wrote because inside her chest beat a heart that could not be stopped. It was this heart that would one day bring to life characters that millions would know and millions would love. And that heart refused to surrender, even when every door seemed closed. In the midst of laughter and tears, there was a mother who lived in a small apartment with a young child in her arms. She had dreams once of becoming something greater, of helping others, of healing the sick, of making the world a little kinder. But life gave her challenges she could never have predicted. She worked long nights. She studied by the light of dawn. She fought exhaustion with the only power she had, which was a will that refused to break. Each time she felt like giving up, she thought of her child. She thought of the future she wanted to build, and slowly, with every small win, she proved that dreams do not die. When you struggle, they grow. There was also a young athlete who once stood on ice dreaming of winning medals and hearing cheers from crowds, but an injury took that dream away, and the pain was sharp as lightning, striking her again and again. She could have stopped right there. She could have chosen an easier path. But instead she found a new dream. She found that life sometimes changes the way you dream, but not the dream itself. She learned to weave fashion and passion together and became a creator of garments that made others feel beautiful and strong. And she showed the world that when one dream ends, another one can rise even stronger. These women lived in different places and faced different battles, yet they shared a secret. They refused to give up. They knew that the world will try to tell you that you are not ready, that you are too small or too late, that your dreams are unreachable. But they stood firm. They believed in themselves. They chose to rise when others expected them to fall. And in that choice, they found their strength. Imagine walking through the heart of New York, where people move fast and dreams feel both close and far at the same time. You will find stories of women who started tiny shops with nothing but courage and hope. They woke up before the sun. They worked while others rested. They believed that every step forward, even if small, mattered. They believed that dreams are built one brick at a time. And there was a woman who loved art more than anything. She painted colors that spoke louder than words. She painted emotions that words could never capture, but galleries told her her art was too strange, too unconventional, too unlike what the world was used to. But she painted anyway. She painted the paintings that lived inside her soul. And one day the world began to notice, and those paintings became mirrors in which others saw themselves. They saw their struggles, their courage, their longing, and in that moment her dreams became bigger than she ever expected. There was a woman who once dreamed of becoming a musician. She sat every night in her room, playing melodies that danced between joy and pain. She wrote songs that spoke of truth and courage, but the world told her there was no place for her voice in the music she loved. She was told to change her sound to fit what was popular. But she refused. She played the songs that felt true to her heart, and soon people began to gather. They listened, they felt, they connected. And her music became the sound of courage for many who had once felt alone. And what about the woman who dedicated her life to helping others? She walked into communities burdened by struggle and pain. She taught children who had never held a book. She fed families who had never eaten without worry. She stood in places where hope had once seemed lost, and she refused to leave until she saw signs of light. She taught them that dreams are not only for the few, but for all, and she lived the truth that to help others is to help yourself. These stories weave together like threads of a tapestry, each one different, yet all connected by courage. They teach us that a dream is not a single moment of success, but a lifetime of choices to keep going. They teach us that when we fall, it does not mean we have failed. It means we have learned something new about ourselves, that when the world says no, it might just be guiding us toward a better yes. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine the beat of your own heart. Imagine it filled with hope, with desire, with courage. What story will you write with it? What dreams will you chase, even if the world stands against you? These women show us that dreams are not fragile. They are alive, they grow, they stand tall when you refuse to give up. In every corner of the world, in every city and town, there live women with stories like these, and even more stories that are waiting to be told. They are in classrooms, they are in hospitals, they are walking on stages, they are creating art, they are mothers, daughters, sisters, and leaders. They breathe life into hopes that once seemed impossible, and they carry legacies and dreams that will one day inspire even more hearts to beat stronger. Remember the names, but also remember the courage behind them. Remember the struggles, but also remember the victories. Remember that a dream is not measured by how fast you achieve it, but by how deeply you hold on when everything tries to push you away. Let these stories be the wind beneath the wings of every girl and woman who watches this video. Let them remind us that fear is only a shadow and courage is the light that chases it away. Let them remind us that dreams are not distant stars, but sparks inside our own hearts, waiting to be ignited. And as our time together moves forward like waves upon the shore, let these stories remain in your breath, in your heartbeat, in the way you step forward into your own story, into your own dreams, into your own courage. Because every woman who refused to give up did not only change her life, she changed the world, and now it is your turn.